Good afternoon. It is Thursday, September 17th, and I know I made a video blog yesterday, but there are a few things I want to add today that I feel are important. On the subject of my last blog, it was a bit angry. I was frustrated, and while I stand behind the content of my message, I want to reiterate that I want this conversation between you and I to be focused more on reason and logic and intellect than emotion. And I regret in some ways the level of emotion that came out in yesterday's blog, because I don't want it to be about that. As libertarians, we are more focused on reason and logic, in my opinion, than the opposition is. Neoconservatives operate on emotion, on blind nationalism. Obama supporters operate on emotion as well. So as libertarians, we need to avoid that. But you know, these are frustrating times. It's easy to lose our composure every now and then, isn't it? We are witnessing our country going full speed right over a cliff, and it's hard to stand by and not get wrapped up in it. And sometimes we need to vent, and I felt the need to vent yesterday after hearing former President Carter's words, and in some ways I regret the level of emotion I exercised in that blog. But I still stand behind my assertion that race baiting is an attempt to stifle the opposition and hinder free speech. But yeah, we're living in frustrating times, and we're witnessing an all-out assault on our natural rights as human beings. We're witnessing an assault on individual liberties and so on. So it's very hard to keep your composure in times like this. What do I mean by natural rights? I mean, you know, look at the Declaration of Independence. Thomas Jefferson lays it out right there. He talks about the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I would also add in John Locke's theory that property rights are included in that as well. The right to own property without having it stolen by either an individual or by a coercive state through the theft called taxation. But that's another issue that I'm not going to get into today. But I mean, we're in an environment right now where natural rights are no longer as valued as they once were. This is a different republic than the one we were born into. If you go on the street and ask somebody, where do we get our right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness from? Many of them are going to say either A, the government, or B, the Bill of Rights or the Constitution. Really, it's neither. The government, the state, did not grant us those rights. Those are rights that we were born with. Those are rights that come with our humanity. The state doesn't grant us those rights. The right to pursue happiness, for example. I mean, it's not a right to happiness, it's the right to pursue happiness. There's a big difference between that. As human beings, we have a natural right to pursue happiness. We have a natural right to liberty. If I want to just sit around all day and eat Doritos and smoke pot and maybe work a minimum wage job to pay rent, just barely get by, that's my right as a human being. Now, am I going to do that? No. I mean, I don't agree with that lifestyle for myself, because I just have bigger things I want to accomplish in that. But if an individual wants to do that, as long as they aren't infringing on the rights of other individuals, as long as they're hurting nobody else, it's within their natural right to do that. The government does not grant us those rights. These rights, our individual liberties, are completely independent from government. Thomas Jefferson would have agreed would agree with this. John Locke would agree with this. James Madison would agree with this. All of these Enlightenment thinkers articulated this position. But too often today we associate rights with something the state grants us. A lot of people today say that we have a right to health care. But, I mean, if we have a right to health care, there's all of a sudden you enter into the equation coercion. Because if you have a right to health care, someone is being coerced. Either the doctor is being coerced to give up his labor for free to you, or the taxpayer is being coerced to give up part of his paycheck to fund your health care. So that's the big difference between natural rights on one hand and something like a right to health care on the other hand. We don't have a right to health care. That's not a natural right because it involves coercion. Coercion is not natural. And that's the big ideological battle going on right now. It's not about left versus right. It's about individual liberties, individualism, and coercion, or statism. And right now, if you haven't noticed, statism rules the day. Coercion rules the day. In our current environment, the government is the savior. The government is the one who grants you rights. We should, in this current environment, the state believes that we should be thanking them for being so gracious to give us these rights, that we should rely on the state. That's just not the way it works. We have natural rights completely independent from the state. That's the ideological battle, like I said, that is going on right now. And unfortunately, Bush, I always talk about how Bush and Obama were similar. That is one key, as a key piece of evidence that they are similar. Bush stood more on the side of statism and coercion. Bush was not a firm supporter of individual liberties. See, as libertarians, we understand that liberty doesn't just stop with civil liberties. It also goes into economic liberties. And like I said, Washington, D.C. today just doesn't understand that. And fortunately, a lot of the public is waking up to that. And that's why we're seeing the huge amount of dissent today. Like I said, the last video blog, it has nothing to do with the color of Obama's skin. It has to do with this battle that is going on between coercion and individualism. And I'm always going to side with the individual. I have faith in the individual's right to do what he or she wants as long as they don't hurt anyone else. The state has a very violent history. It has a very coercive history. And I simply do not trust it. In the words of Murray Rothbard, the great political theorist of the 20th century, the state is nothing more than a criminal gang that lives off the theft called taxation and uses that money to boss us around, to order us around. Okay, that's the state. Now, I'm not saying you have to be an anarchist, but if that is essentially what the state is, and if you look at it from a completely objective standpoint, that is what the state is. If that is the state, then we need to do everything in our power to limit the state and keep it under control, if not abolish it completely. But at the very least, we need to keep it under control, and that is the battle that's going on right now. Like I said, I'm always going to be on the side of individual liberty, because that's what this country was founded on. Those are our natural rights as human beings, no matter what Barack Obama or anybody else tries to tell you. But anyway, that's all for today. Thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you guys soon.